This is West Los Angeles College Summer Camp for high school and college students, Web Design Basics. Moving on, in week 4, we tackled a web form. So we went back to our website, and let's go to Live View, and we added in another Bootstrap 3 container. So this is my video container. I'm going to click under my Bootstrap components and add in another container. I'm going to put it after my video container. Now for this one, I'm actually going to go to a viewport we've not used yet, which is the small viewport, and I'm going to add in a grid row with columns, and this time I'm going to choose 2 columns. We've tried 1 column, we've tried 3 columns, and again I'm going to nest it because I want to put it inside of that container. Hit nest and hit OK. I got those in place. Now let's have a look at what we've got. We've got 2 columns, each 6 columns wide. So I'm going to click on this first one, and I am going to insert a H2 heading. So I go under Insert and choose Heading and choose H2, and I'm going to nest it because I want to put it inside. And I'm going to go to have a look at what's the, here it is. We've got this placeholder text. This is the content for H2 tag. And I'm going to double click on that to enable myself to edit that, and I'm going to type in, please join our email list. Okay. Alright, I've got that. I'm going to hit save. Now, my web form is going to go in this column on the right. I would like the column on the right, the web form one, to be considerably larger, and I'd like this one to be considerably smaller. So it's pretty easy to do. Again, I'm in small view. I'm going to click on, with this column selected, I've got my div selected. I've got these little handles. I can just click on that handle, resize that column, and you'll notice it says 5, then 4, now it's 3. So this is actually 3 columns wide. Now my other one that I have over here, which is currently empty, it's still 6 columns wide, but if I want to make it larger, I just click on the handle and drag to the right, 7, 8, 9. Now it's 9 columns wide. So we're going to get ready. We're going to get started with adding in our form components. And where we have Bootstrap components, we're going to click on that drop down, and we're going to select Form. First thing that we do with our div column 9 selected is add in the basic form container, and we do that by clicking on Form, and we're going to nest it because we're going to put it inside there, and we get this placeholder content for form goes here. Next thing we're going to do with our form selected is add a div. So I'm going to choose Insert. I'm going to insert a div, and I'm going to nest it. I'm putting it inside of my form. There we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do, I've got my div selected here. I'm actually going to go ahead and assign it to a class, a form group. So I clicked on my class, going to drag down here and choose form group. There we go. Class of form group, because this div is going to hold a group of form elements. Alright? Now what are we going to put inside this div form group? We are going to add a text input. So now I can just click on text input, and we're going to nest it because we're going to put it inside of that div. Now we have a text input. Now we want to add in another input for email. And basically we're going to go through the steps we went to, but before I move on, my text input that I just added, I'm going to give it a class of form control. Kind of hard to see right now, but we have a text field here, and then we've got this input field here. I'm going to change this to form control. So let's go over here and choose form control. And when we do that, it's kind of content got laid out a little bit differently. Now we have our label above the actual input. Okay, so let's add in another div. So I've got my first div selected, the one that's a member of the form group. I'm going to choose Insert. I'm going to choose a div. I'm going to put it after my form group. And again, with this div selected, I'm going to give it a class of form group. So let's scroll down here, and we're going to choose form group. Now with our form group selected, what we're going to do, we're going to add an email input. So I can click on email. We're going to nest it. We're going to put it inside And again, we want to assign this to a class of form control. So if we scroll down here, there it is, form control. All right, looking good. I'm going to go ahead and hit save all. We've been making a lot of changes here. Now we have the basic parts for our email list for this form. If we look inside of our document object model, we've got our two form inputs. Now, I've got a bunch of placeholder text here that I want to get rid of, and probably the easiest way to do that is to switch to design view, because design view really does make it easy to edit and remove text. So very carefully now, I'm going to highlight this text. It says content for new div tag goes here, and just hit delete. I'm going to do the same thing for content for new div tag goes here, and hit delete. And then I'm going to get rid of the placeholder content for form goes here, and hit delete. Alright, we've cleaned that up. Let's switch back to live view. Now there's two more things we need to do so that our form will actually work. We need to add in a submit button for sure. This will not work without a submit button. So I'm going to click on my last element that we added, that div that holds the email input, and I'm going to click on adding a submit button. If I scroll down here, I'm going to see here's my submit button. So I'll click on my submit button. I'm going to add it after my input. So that's my submit button. Now I'm going to add in a reset button, just in case somebody changed their mind and wants to reset their input. So let's click on the reset button. And again, we're going to add it afterwards. So now we just need to put in the different values we want for these inputs. The text field, if you're clever and you double-click just right, you can edit the values for this text field. Right now it says text field. I want it to change it to name. It can be a little tricky to double-click exactly where you want to. Another thing you can do is you can switch back to design view and very carefully highlight text field, and I'm going to change this to name because I'm going to use this to be my name input. Let's go back to live view. Alright, we're going to put in all the specific values we need to make this form work. I've clicked on the input field for my name. Right now, this text input has a name of text field. I'm going to change it to name, N-A-M-E, all lowercase. I'm going to click on required so that someone is required to put a name in order for this to be accepted. And then for my placeholder text, I'm going to type in full name so people know that's where your full name goes. And I'm going to give a tab index of 1. Alright, we're done with that. Let's go and look at our email. When I click on my email input, I can see under properties it shows email. Let me know it's an email. Name is email. That's perfect. Again, I'm going to make this required. For my placeholder text, I'm going to type in email address. And for my tab index, I'm going to type in 2. Great. Now let's go down. Let's click on our submit button. Now our submit button is just about ready to go, but I would like to do a little work first with the styling. So I'm going to click on our class, and I'm going to give it a class of BTN for button. There we go, BTN for button. Notice that looks a little bit nicer. The button's a little bit larger, a little bit clearer. Let's click on our reset button, and again, under class, I'm going to click on my drop-down menu. I'm going to scroll up, and I'm going to give it a class of BTN for button. Now we can make these classes a little bit more specific. I'm going to give it, not only is this going to be a member of the class button, and it also has an ID of submit, I'm going to click on this add/class, and I'm going to type in period BTN-SU, and I can see that there is an existing Bootstrap class called button success. And let's click on that. When I do that, now my button turns green. If I click on my reset button, same thing. Click on this little plus icon to add a class or an ID, and I'm going to type in period BTN- and this time I'm going to start typing the word danger because there's a danger one. Let's choose that one. Okay, almost there. I'm going to click on my submit button again. The value right now is submit. I'm going to change that value to join now. How about that? So when they click on the join now button, they will join the email list. And I'm going to give it a tab index of 3. My reset button, I'm going to give it a tab index of 4. Now we're almost finished. There's one more set of values we need to put in that are super important. I'm going to click on this form tag in my status bar, and I need to actually put in my action and my method, my target. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the ID from form 1, which doesn't really tell me very much about what this does, and I'm going to change the ID to email list. Now for my action, I'm going to put in a web address, HTTP. In fact, let's just copy the web address. I'm going to go out here to my web browser. Here's an open page, and I'm going to type in http://www.webdesignbasics.org, webdesignbasics.org. And here's a little page that's all about this website, Web Design Basics California Career Pathway Trust Program. I'm going to highlight my URL and copy my URL. Let's go back to Dreamweaver. And for my action, I'm going to paste in that URL. My method is going to stay as post, and my target is going to be blank, meaning it's going to open up in a new page. Let me hit Save All to save everything. And that is pretty much everything I need to do to make this web form work. So let's test it out. I'm going to go to Preview in Firefox. As I scroll down, here is my form. I can resize my, oops, didn't mean to switch out of that. Resize my page, and you'll notice that as soon as I go to my mobile view, we'll know we're in mobile view because we'll see our navigation change. That now, please join our email list in the name. It's stacked one on top of each other, but as soon as we go to small view, then this is 3 columns and 9 columns. So let's fill out some information here and test this form and see if it works. I'll put in my name and my college email address. And I'm going to hit Join Now. And when I do, we can see that this page opens up. It says, thank you for joining our email list. It shows me my name, shows me my email address, and it should send an email, confirmation email, to whatever email address I put in there. Now, what we're looking at is an example of a modal, and a modal is a secondary window that kind of opens up in front of your main window. Let's add a modal to our existing website. So how do we do that? Well, we're in luck because we actually have a lot of the code we already need in place on our web page, and because we had Dreamweaver create a full Bootstrap installation for us, we've already got all the additional JavaScript. The code is there, we just need to activate it. So how do we do that? We're going to go back to our friend Google, and I'm going to Google Bootstrap, B-O-T-S-T-R-A-P, Modal, W3SCHOOLS. Now, W3 Schools is a great reference for a lot of code, so let's click on Bootstrap Modals, W3 Schools. And it tells us that for the modal plugins, we actually need 2 pieces of code. First, we need the trigger, and then we need the actual modal. Now, we already have a button on our web page we can use. What we're missing is this part, the data toggle that says this is equal to modal, and the data target. This is the code that we need. Data toggle equals modal, and data target equals my modal. So I'm going to right-click and copy that. I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver. I'm going to scroll up, and let's have a look at the top of our web page. I'm going to click on my Learn More button. Now, this button currently doesn't do anything too exciting, but I'm going to click on my Learn More button and then go to Split View. And you can see that it looks a lot like that button that we were looking at on the other page. It says class is button primary, got a reference, roles button. So I'm just going to paste in an extra code that we just now copied. So where it says role equals button, I'm going to click in here. I'm going to hit a space on my space bar to give myself a little room, and then I'm just going to right click and choose paste or Control V. So now I've added in that extra code that I needed. Role, it's button, that was there before. Data toggle equals modal, and then data target equals my modal. So let's save that. Let's go back. We said there was one more part that we needed. The other part that we need, sorry, wrong web browser, is this part that says my modal. So we're going to copy all of this code, my modal, all the way down here. This is the code that we need. So I've got that highlighted. I'm going to right click and choose copy. So the data target is pound my modal, which means it's looking for an ID of my modal. Does anything here have an ID of my modal? Well, yes, it does. This next section says ID equals my modal. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose copy. I'm feeling pretty good about this. Let's go back to Dreamweaver. Now the question is, where are we going to put this? By default, this modal is going to be invisible. It's not going to be seen. So I could pretty much put it just about anywhere I want to. I'll tell you what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to put it at the bottom of my page before the part that says something about jQuery. So it's going to be at the bottom of the page, not at the very bottom, but before the part about jQuery. So I'm going to click. I can see I've got a closing div tag. I'm going to hit the space enter key a couple times to add myself some space, and then I'm going to hit paste. And I will now choose to preview this in Firefox. Do I save changes? Yep. So the page doesn't look really any different now. I've got my text, 3 images, my text, my video, my form. But when I click on my Learn More button, now a little modal opens up. Now we don't really have, we'll just have the default text in there, but we could make that a little bit fancier. Okay. I can go back to Dreamweaver. I can go back to my modal, and if I look, I've got this H4 tag. Okay. Click on this is my H4 tag, and inside of it it says modal header. Instead, I could put in more information about pencils! Exclamation point. Now I have some text here. It says some text in the modal. This isn't too helpful, but I don't really have any other text to fill it in. So let's use what we used before, which is the snippet in Dreamweaver for the lorem ipsum. So I deleted my placeholder text that was there. Let me undo that so you can see that again. It says some text in the modal. I'm going to hit backspace to delete that. I'll go to Window. I'm going to choose Snippets. And again, with my lorem ipsum selected, I'll click on Insert. Now I've got a whole bunch of text there. Let's preview this page again. Preview in Chrome. Do I want to save the changes? Yep. I'll click on my Learn More button. And now I've got more information about pencils and a whole bunch of text. That looks better. I'm going to do one more thing. Let's add in a picture. So I'm going to click on my Close button. And I want to put this picture after my headline but before my text. So here's my headline. This is the body that holds all my text. So inside of this, after this opening body tag but before the paragraph, I'm going to hit enter to add a new line. I'm going to insert another Bootstrap component. This time I'm going to go switch back to my Bootstrap components, and I'm going to add where it says responsive image. I'm going to click here. I'm going to choose a rounded corner image. Let's click on rounded corner, and we get some placeholder content added. Now I can save all and preview in my browser again, Firefox. And when I do that, I just get that unexciting gray bar. That's that placeholder content. But we have some images, right, already in our website. Let's use one of those. So with my placeholder image selected, I just clicked right here on my image. We can see I've got my placeholder image. I'm going to choose Browse for File again. And I'm going to choose maybe this picture of the violin, and I'm going to say OK. And again, preview in my web browser. Save changes, yes. And now when I click on my Learn More button, I've got that nice picture that shows up. More information about pencils. I got the picture of the violin, placeholder text. Oh, we can close that. We have one more thing to do before we wrap up here on week 4. I am not satisfied with the appearance of this email list. Just doesn't look too good to me, and the main problem I'm having is with the spacing. So let's see what we can do to fix that. I'm going to go back to Dreamweaver, and I'm going to switch to my live view, and I'm going to scroll down. So this is my contact. I'm going to click on this last div we have here, and I want to give this an ID of contact. So I'm going to, a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to right click on my quick tag editor, and I'm actually going to type in, after that closing quotation mark, space ID equals quote contact, C-O-N-T-A-C-T, quote, and then just hit enter. And when I do that, I can see that my div now says contact. So let's do a little stylizing of this contact. I'm going to go to my CSS designer. under my sources, I'm going to choose styles.css, where we're putting all the styles that make this unique. I'm going to choose global, and I'm going to add a new selector, and the selector is called contact. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a margin of 20 pixels to the top. So let's click down here where my margin is, and let's put in 20 on the top and hit enter. Now right away I've added myself some space. Well, what about some space on the bottom? Sure enough, just go down and add 20 pixels on the bottom. Now I want to add a little space inside of my, there's my extra 20 pixels on there, inside of my box, and we do that with padding. So I'm going to click down here to padding. I want to add the same amount of padding to all 4 sizes. So I'm going to click the Click to Change All Properties link. Where it has 0, I'm going to click and put 20. And because I put in that link, everything gets linked together. We're going to add in one more border. I'm going to go to my border. I'm going to put a border on all 4 sizes, all 4 sides. My width, I'm going to choose thin. For my style, I will make it solid. And for my color, I'm just going to go with black for now. I'll hit enter. And then preview in my web browser. Do I want to save changes? Save these changes to CSS files. Now when I scroll down, that looks better. Got a nice little square box around there. I could make it look a little bit nicer still. Maybe add a little border radius. If I go to my border properties and click down here and see border radius, it's my border radius. I'm going to click my link to link all 4 sides together, and maybe I'll give myself a border radius of 10 pixels. Let's preview in the web browser, Firefox, save those changes. And now when I go down to look at my contact form, I can see I've got this nice little rounded edge. Either one looks good. The rounded edge looks nice. This is everything that we covered in week 4, and we have left to go is week number 5.